My cheating wife had been unfaithful to me for 4 months. I sat in the restaurant and watched as she walked into the room wearing the dress she'd bought for our anniversary. She sat down at the table, fixed her hair, waiting for her lover. Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I had always prided myself on building a life of stability and trust. Amelia and I had been married for 4 years, a marriage built on shared ambitions and the promise of a bright future. Our life was busy but fulfilling. I worked as an IT consultant, while Amelia climbed the corporate ladder in marketing. We were partners in every sense of the word, pouring our energy into our careers to secure a future for the children we hoped to have one day. But lately, something about Amelia felt different. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly at first. She spent an unusual amount of time on her phone, her fingers tapping furiously at the screen. Whenever I asked who she was texting, she would laugh it off and say it was work-related. Her explanation seemed reasonable enough. After all, she was up for a big promotion. The long hours and constant communication with colleagues were just part of the process, she assured me. Still, the excuses didn't sit right with me. It wasn't just the phone. Amelia had begun staying late at the office more often, arriving home hours after I did. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But there were little signs that tugged at the corners of my mind. The way she dismissed my concerns with rehearsed calmness, or the distant look she gave me when I pressed for details about her day. The breaking point came one Thursday evening. Amelia walked through the front door, her cheeks slightly flushed, her hair disheveled in a way that wasn't typical of her usual meticulousness. I noticed it immediately, the faint but distinct scent of cologne, a scent I didn't recognize. "Amelia, what's that smell?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. She froze for a moment, her eyes darting toward the floor. Then she laughed, a bit too loudly, a bit too forced. "Oh, that? I stopped at a perfume store after work. I was picking out a new scent for you. Surprise. My gut twisted." Her explanation was delivered with the practiced precision of someone who had rehearsed it, yet the sharpness in her tone suggested a defensive edge. I didn't want to press further, but the unease was impossible to shake. "Why didn't you mention it earlier?" I probed gently. Her expression hardened. "Are you accusing me of something, Mason? I've been working overtime to help us, and you're giving me grief because I wanted to do something nice for you." The air between us turned icy as her voice grew louder. I decided to drop the subject, but the damage was done. Later that night, as Amelia showered, I sat on the edge of our bed, staring at the blank TV screen. Her answer might have been brilliant, but it didn't feel like the truth. That scent lingered in my thoughts like a shadow. Something wasn't adding up. The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my untouched plate of scrambled eggs and toast. Across from me, Amelia scrolled on her phone, a cup of coffee in her free hand. The warm morning light streamed through the window, but the atmosphere was far from peaceful. The tension that had simmered the night before now felt unbearable. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I set my fork down deliberately and took a deep breath. "Amelia," I began, keeping my tone steady and gentle. "Can we talk for a minute?" She looked up from her phone, startled. "Sure. What's up?" I hesitated, searching for the right words. "Is everything okay with us? I mean, in our relationship?" Her expression flickered, just for a moment, but it was enough for me to notice. "Of course everything's fine," she replied quickly, her voice light and airy. But I wasn't convinced. "Amelia," I pressed, leaning forward slightly. "If there's something you're not happy with, or if I've done something to make you feel distant, I want to know. And if there's someone else, or if this marriage has become a burden to you, then maybe we should discuss it openly." Her laugh came too quickly, sharp and nervous. "Oh, Mason, don't be ridiculous." "Is it ridiculous?" I asked, my voice firmer now. "I'm just trying to understand. You've been distant lately, and—" She cut me off, setting her coffee cup down with a clatter. "You know what's wrong, Mason?" "You." I blinked, taken aback. "Me?" "Yes," she snapped, her voice rising. "You're putting too much pressure on me and making me feel guilty. You probably don't like that I'm constantly busy with work, but guess what? That's life. I have a lot on my plate, and I need personal space. Why can't you just accept that?" My throat tightened. I hadn't expected this level of deflection. "Amelia, I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. I just want to know if there's something I can do to help." "Help?" She interrupted again, her tone dripping with exasperation. "You're not helping, Mason. You're smothering me with all these questions and suspicions. I don't even want to hear about it anymore." Her words stung, and the finality in her voice was like a wall slamming down between us. I tried a few more times to probe gently, asking if there was anything I could do to make things easier, but each time she skillfully deflected, her responses laced with frustration and just enough logic to make me doubt myself. By the time breakfast was over, I felt more uncertain than ever. I watched as she grabbed her bag and headed out the door. Her goodbye kiss felt perfunctory, almost like an afterthought. Over the next few days, things only got worse. Amelia became more secretive, guarding her phone like a hawk and taking calls out of earshot. She'd lock herself in the bedroom or step outside to speak in hushed tones, always claiming it was work-related whenever I asked. She also seemed to go out of her way to avoid being alone with me, filling her schedule with errands and late nights at the office. When she was home, she was either too tired to talk or glued to her phone, scrolling endlessly. I felt like a stranger in my own marriage. Every attempt I made to bridge the gap was met with thin smiles and vague reassurances. Finally, one evening, as I sat alone in the living room, the weight of it all pressed down on me. I couldn't keep playing this game. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees, and stared into the darkness outside the window. Enough was enough. If Amelia wasn't willing to be honest with me, I'd have to find the truth myself. My opportunity came one quiet evening. Amelia was engrossed in one of her favorite TV dramas, lounging on the couch with her phone in hand, scrolling absent-mindedly. I sat nearby, pretending to be absorbed in a book, but my eyes kept flicking toward her. I was waiting for the moment when she would inevitably leave the phone unattended. It didn't take long. "I'll be right back," she said, setting her phone on the coffee table as she got up to go to the bathroom. My heart raced as I glanced at the device. I had been watching her closely for days, memorizing the way she quickly tapped her passcode. Taking a deep breath to steady myself, I grabbed the phone and entered the code. The screen unlocked, and I began navigating through her apps with practiced efficiency. I checked her messages first, but there was nothing. Not a single text. My brow furrowed as I opened her email app, then her social media accounts. Again, nothing. Not a single conversation, notification, or interaction. It was as if she didn't use her phone for anything but its basic functions. Then it hit me. She was deleting everything. I sat back, stunned. Amelia wasn't just being secretive. She was going to great lengths to cover her tracks. There weren't even work emails or messages, which she had previously claimed were the reason for her constant texting. Hearing the bathroom door creak open, I quickly placed the phone back on the table and resumed my spot on the couch. My heart pounded in my chest as she returned, seemingly unaware of my brief intrusion. The next day at work, I decided I needed expert advice. Jack, a junior technician on my team, was known for his knack for digital forensics. I approached him during our lunch break, framing the situation as a hypothetical. "Jack, let's say someone deletes everything off their phone, texts, emails, everything. Is it possible to recover that data?" I asked casually. He raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Depends on the phone and how thorough they are. But yeah, it's possible with the right equipment. You can recover data even after deletion. But why recover it when you can just capture it before it's gone?" I tilted my head. "What do you mean?" "You can set up a virtual copy of the phone," he explained. "Basically, it mirrors the device. Every message, email, or notification gets synced in real time. Even if the person deletes something, it's already backed up on the virtual copy." I leaned in, lowering my voice. "And you could set this up, hypothetically speaking, of course?" Jack smirked. "Hypothetically? Sure. But you'd need access to the phone for a few minutes to install the necessary software." "Why? You suspect someone of hiding something?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, something like that." Jack leaned back, considering. "Okay, here's what we do. If you can distract the person long enough, I can connect their phone to my tablet and set up the virtual copy. It'll take a few minutes, tops." I felt a flicker of hope for the first time in days. "Jack, I'll owe you one for this." "Big time." That evening, I invited Jack over under the pretense of helping with a work project. When Amelia came home, I greeted her at the door with an easy smile. "Hey, honey, this is Jack, my colleague. We thought we'd brainstorm a project outside of work, just for a bit. I hope you don't mind." Amelia gave Jack a polite nod. "Of course not," she said, slipping off her shoes. I'll be in the kitchen. Long day, and I could use a glass of wine. Jack and I exchanged a quick glance as she disappeared into the kitchen. Phase 1 was complete. Where's her purse? Jack whispered. I gestured toward the hall table. There. But she'll be back any second. How do we do this without her noticing? Jack smirked. Be creative. He leaned in. Remember, keep her busy for at least 5 or 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I whispered back, incredulous. He shrugged with a mischievous grin. What can I say? Genius takes time. I slipped into the hallway and grabbed her purse, opening it as quietly as I could. I found her phone nestled inside, plucked it out, and passed it to Jack, who was waiting just around the corner. Go, go, I whispered, shooing him toward the room like we were part of some covert spy operation. Jack grinned and gave me a thumbs up. As Amelia opened the fridge to retrieve the wine bottle, I sidled into the kitchen, all smiles and forced casualness. Hey, you know what I've been thinking about lately? She raised an eyebrow, pouring herself a generous glass. What's that? I should really organize that drawer, I said, gesturing vaguely toward a cluttered kitchen drawer that neither of us had touched in years. You know, the one with all the takeout menus and old batteries. I think there's even a half-eaten candy bar in there. Amelia gave me a puzzled look. That's what's on your mind right now? Absolutely, I said, nodding emphatically. Organization is key, Amelia. You've inspired me with how neat you always keep your purse, so I thought. My purse? She said suddenly, setting her wine glass down. I left my phone in there. I need to check something. My heart skipped a beat. Oh, don't worry about it. You deserve a break. What could be so urgent? Work stuff. Forget it for a while. Relax. Ignoring me, she turned toward the hall. Thinking quickly, I grabbed the wine bottle and fumbled with it dramatically. Whoa, I exclaimed, pretending to lose my grip. Amelia turned back, just in time to see me catch the bottle at the last second, some wine sloshing onto the counter. Careful, she said, hurrying back to grab a towel. Yeah, my bad, I said sheepishly, wiping at the spill. See, this is why I'm not allowed to handle fine beverages. Hey, can you teach me that thing you do? You know, where you swirl the wine to let it breathe. It's so fancy. Amelia stared at me, exasperated. Mason, it's not that hard. Show me, please. I handed her the wine glass, managing to block her path toward the hall again. With a sigh, she demonstrated the swirling motion. There. Happy. Very. I said, grinning. Now, can you do that thing where you smell it and say something poetic, like hints of oak and despair? Amelia laughed despite herself, shaking her head. You're ridiculous. Meanwhile, in the spare room, Jack was working furiously. He had connected Amelia's phone to his tablet and was watching the progress bar inch forward as the virtual copy began syncing. Come on, I heard him mutter under his breath. In the kitchen, I was holding Amelia down as best I could, raising the glass to my lips. Her patience seemed to wear thin. Okay, enough with the theatrics, she said, brushing past me toward the hall. Panic surged through me. Wait, I called out, lunging forward and accidentally bumping into her, causing a splash of wine to land on her sleeve. Mason, she exclaimed, staring at the stain. Oh no, I'm so sorry, I said, grabbing a napkin and dabbing at her arm. I'm such a klutz today. Here, let me fix it. Just stop, she said, retreating to the bathroom to clean up. In the spare room, Jack wiped his brow as the progress bar finally reached 100%. He disconnected the phone and hurried to return it to me. When Amelia emerged from the bathroom, wearing a clean sweatshirt and an irritated expression, I had just managed to slip her phone back into her purse. Feeling better? I asked with an innocent smile. Better than you, apparently, she replied, shaking her head. You're acting so weird tonight. Me? Weird. I laughed nervously. Nah, just keeping things interesting. Amelia rolled her eyes and headed straight for her purse. My pulse quickened as she reached inside. Before she could grab her phone, I blurted out, Hey, how about we order Thai food? I'm starving, and maybe that's why I'm acting a little off. You know, low blood sugar turns me into a total weirdo. I grinned, trying to defuse her suspicion with humor. She paused, looking up. Thai food, huh? Yep. Pad Thai, green curry, those little spring rolls, the works. I rattled off, edging closer to her. Let's order for 3. Jack's still here, after all. At that moment, Jack reappeared from the spare room, holding his tablet with a businesslike expression. Mason, he said, his tone professional. I've jotted down some ideas for the project. I think these could work well. I nodded with exaggerated seriousness, as if I were deeply contemplating his ideas. Looks solid, I said, taking the tablet and glancing at the blank screen before handing it back. Should I order food for 3 then? Amelia asked, looking between us. Jack smiled politely, shaking his head. Oh, I really should get going. I wouldn't want to intrude. Nonsense. I nudged Jack in the side with a playful grin. For 3, you're staying. Amelia raised an eyebrow, but shrugged. All right, dinner for 3 it is. The 3 of us sat around the dining table an hour later, enjoying our Thai feast. I worked hard to keep the conversation light and funny, cracking jokes about our project while Jack played along with commendable ease. So, Jack, Amelia said, spearing a piece of chicken with her fork, what kind of work do you usually do with Mason? Mostly brainstorming and troubleshooting, Jack replied, smiling. And sometimes being roped into awkward dinner parties. I laughed. Hey, I'm just trying to expand your horizons, Jack. Who knows? Maybe one day you'll work in hospitality. The table erupted in laughter, and for a while, the tension in the room eased. A couple of hours later, Jack stood at the door, pulling on his jacket. Thanks for the food, he said, smiling at Amelia. And good luck with your drawer project, Mason. Thanks for the help, I replied, clapping him on the shoulder. As Jack left, I let out a deep breath. The evening had been chaotic, but it ended on a high note. Now, with Jack's covert operation a success, I had only one goal, to uncover what Amelia had been hiding. For a month, I had watched my suspicions transform into undeniable truths. The virtual copy Jack had set up provided a steady stream of data from Amelia's phone to my tablet. Every deleted text, every call log, and every photo slowly painted a picture I had desperately hoped to avoid. The messages were the hardest to stomach. Her exchanges with Bruce, who turned out to be a colleague from another department, were frequent and unmistakably intimate. The light flirting, the inside jokes, the late-night texts that ended with emojis too personal for comfort. It all told the same story. My heart ached. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was irrefutable. Amelia wasn't just distant. She was building a secret life with another man. When I finally decided to confront her, I knew it had to be memorable, not just for the shock factor, but because I needed Amelia to see the gravity of what she had done. One evening, I approached her as she worked on her laptop at the dining table. Hey, I began, keeping my tone casual. I was thinking we should have a date night. Maybe try that Italian place you love. How about Thursday? Amelia looked up, hesitating for just a fraction of a second. Thursday? Oh, I'd love to, but I have a business meeting that evening. It's with an old client from work. Maybe another time. I smiled faintly, my heart heavy but my resolve firm. Sure, another time. What Amelia didn't know was that I already knew about her plans. When Thursday evening came, I dressed sharply and arrived at the restaurant well ahead of time. I chose a discreet table near the back, where I could see the entrance without being immediately noticed. I didn't have to wait long. Amelia arrived, stunning in a sleek black dress that hugged her figure. I watched as she scanned the room, clearly looking for someone. When a hostess approached, Amelia gave Bruce's name and was escorted to a table by the window. I allowed her to settle in before making my move. She sat at the table, glancing nervously at the door and checking her phone every few moments. I could see her fidgeting, her fingers drumming lightly on the tablecloth as she waited for Bruce to arrive. Finally, I stood, smoothing the front of my blazer. I walked across the room with deliberate ease and slid into the seat across from her. Amelia's head jerked up in shock. Her eyes widened, and she nearly knocked over her glass of water in her surprise. Mason, she blurted, her voice tinged with alarm. What are you doing here? Her shock quickly shifted to irritation, her cheeks flushing. What is this? How did you even know I'd be here? I smiled, my expression laced with sarcasm. I came on a date with you, I said, leaning back casually in my chair. You know, instead of your lover. Her jaw clenched, her knuckles tightening on the edge of the table. Are you following me? You're acting crazy. I told you I had a business meeting. I tilted my head slightly, my tone maddeningly calm. Amelia, calm down. Don't be nervous. Tell me. I leaned in, just a little, lowering my voice. Is Bruce really better than me? Amelia's face went pale, her lips parting in disbelief. How did you know about Bruce? She whispered, her voice barely audible. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I picked up my glass of water, swirling it theatrically before taking a slow sip, my eyes never leaving hers. Then, with deliberate ease, I raised my hand to call over a waiter. I'll have the steak, medium rare, I said, glancing briefly at the menu. And a glass of your finest red. The waiter nodded and departed. I settled back into my chair as if nothing unusual were happening. Amelia stared at me, her mind racing. Your questions are weird, she said finally, her voice sharp with defiance. I'm waiting for Bruce. Bruce is my old client, and this meeting might look informal, but maybe I can convince him to use the company's services. This is a business meeting, Mason, and when Bruce gets here, he'll confirm everything. I laughed softly, shaking my head. Darling, I said, my voice dripping with irony. Bruce isn't coming. Her breath hitched, and a flicker of panic crossed her face. What are you talking about? I don't understand what's going on at all. This is surreal. I leaned forward, my smile fading as I met her gaze with cold intensity. No, Amelia. What's surreal is watching my wife lie to my face. Amelia looked away, her confidence faltering. I saw her defenses crumble, piece by piece, and I braced myself for what would come next. Why, Amelia? I asked softly, the hurt in my voice undeniable. Why Bruce? Why us? She didn't answer right away, her eyes fixed on the tablecloth as though it held the answer. Her frustration boiled over, her voice rising as she leaned across the table. Mason, you're talking nonsense and trying to make me look like an idiot. Where's Bruce? He'll prove me right when he gets here. I shook my head, my expression calm but unyielding. Amelia, I'll say it again. Bruce is not coming. She let out a sharp laugh, the nervous edge unmistakable. What the hell? How do you know? Are you a seer now? I don't understand you at all. Mason, maybe you've gone crazy. I raised an eyebrow, my tone steady as I replied. And did you know that Bruce is married? That he has 3 children? I paused deliberately. I just found out a little about him. That's all. The color drained from her face. What? She snapped, her voice defensive. Well, even if that's true, why the hell are you playing detective? You're the crazy one here, not me. I sighed, my composure unshaken. Bruce isn't coming because he's busy with his wife. She apparently found out about your affair. Amelia's mouth opened, but no words came out. Her hands curled into fists, trembling slightly as the weight of my words began to sink in. I leaned forward, fixing her with a sharp gaze. Amelia, I'm not a detective, but I've learned a lot over the past month. Did you really think that deleting everything on your phone would make me blind? That you could keep fooling me? She stared at me, her mind racing. My words, my calm demeanor, everything about me now carried a weight of certainty that she couldn't ignore. You're bluffing, she said finally, her voice cracking. You're just trying to mess with my head. At that moment, the waiter returned with my steak, placing the plate in front of me. I thanked him with a nod and picked up my knife and fork, cutting into the meat as if we weren't in the middle of a storm. Amelia, I said calmly, my attention on slicing a perfect piece. I'm not bluffing. I know everything. And I made sure Bruce wouldn't interfere tonight. He has enough of his own problems to deal with. Now, her jaw tightened, and her hand darted into her purse, pulling out her phone. She unlocked it with trembling fingers and dialed Bruce's number. She held the phone to her ear, her eyes narrowing at me. But then a robotic voice spoke. The number you are trying to reach is currently disconnected. Please try again later. Amelia's breath hitched, and her fingers tightened around the phone as she pulled it away from her ear. She stared at the screen, the words on the display confirming what I had just said. She looked back at me, her facade of confidence crumbling. I set my knife down, meeting her wide-eyed gaze with a look of quiet resolve. Still think I'm bluffing? I asked, my voice soft but laced with unmistakable authority. Amelia swallowed hard, her hands trembling as she placed the phone on the table. For the first time that evening, she was struck speechless. She realized that I wasn't joking, wasn't guessing. I had control of the situation, and she had no idea how deep my knowledge went. I took another bite of my steak, chewing thoughtfully before speaking again. You know, Amelia, I said, I'm not here to make a scene. I just want the truth. No more games. No more lies. Amelia sat frozen, her mind a whirlwind of fear, anger, and confusion. The jokes were over, and she finally understood that I wasn't the naive husband she had underestimated. Her face twisted with sudden rage. Her hands slammed on the table as she leaned forward, her voice erupting into a furious shout. What do you want to know, Mason? What truth? I'm not telling you anything. You just decided to put on some kind of show to humiliate me and make me look like the bad guy. I leaned back in my chair, unfazed by her outburst. I sighed heavily and rolled my eyes. Amelia, I tried to talk to you nicely, remember? A month ago, I offered to have an honest conversation. I wanted to work through this. But you brushed me off, denied everything, and acted like there was nothing to discuss. And now, when I've caught you red-handed, you still don't have the courage to face the truth and explain yourself. Her eyes narrowed, her face flushing with indignation. I have nothing to explain. I'm not admitting to anything. Mason, what do you want from me? My jaw tightened, and I leaned forward, my calm demeanor hardening. I understand now, I said quietly. You'll deny everything to the bitter end. I didn't think you could be this stubborn. Fine. Amelia, if you won't talk, then take this. Reaching into my bag, I pulled out a crisp envelope and slid it across the table toward her. The words divorce papers were printed in bold letters across the top. Amelia froze, her breath catching as she stared at the documents. This is my last move, I said firmly. I gave you a chance to have an honest conversation, but you've made your choice. I'm done playing games. By the way, I added, my voice laced with finality, I'm going home now. Your things will be waiting for you on the street. Any complaints can go straight to my lawyer. Amelia's eyes darted between me and the papers, disbelief etched across her face. She grabbed the envelope, clutching it in her trembling hands as she stood abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. Do you think you're the smartest person in the room, Mason? She spat, her voice trembling with fury and humiliation. You've acted like a scoundrel, a complete monster. I met her glare with an unflinching gaze. No, Amelia. I've acted like a man who's finally done being lied to. Without another word, she turned on her heel and stormed out of the restaurant, clutching the divorce papers tightly. When Amelia arrived home, her fury had only intensified. She fumbled for her keys as she approached the front door, but when she inserted the key into the lock, it wouldn't turn. Confused, she tried again, jiggling the key, but it was useless. Then she saw them. Her belongings, suitcases, boxes, and loose items, piled neatly on the front lawn, illuminated by the soft glow of the porch light. A wave of dread must have washed over her as the full weight of my words sank in. I had already changed the locks. I had been serious, and I had prepared for this moment with meticulous precision. She stood frozen on the lawn, clutching the divorce papers, the enormity of her situation crashing down on her. She had gambled everything and lost. The divorce trial was a spectacle. Amelia tried to paint herself as a victim and me as a controlling abuser. She spun tales of manipulation and emotional cruelty, hoping to sway the court in her favor. But I came prepared. When the evidence of her affair with Bruce was revealed, complete with text messages, call logs, and corroboration from Bruce's own wife, it was clear who was at fault. The court saw through her lies, and her attempt to manipulate the narrative crumbled under the weight of undeniable proof. Bruce's wife played a pivotal role. She entered the fray with a vengeance, furious over her husband's betrayal and Amelia's audacity. She provided key testimony and evidence that exposed not only the affair, but also the unethical nature of Amelia's actions. The fact that Bruce was a former client of Amelia's company made the scandal even more damaging. The fallout was swift. Amelia not only lost the divorce case, leaving me with the house, most of our assets, and a favorable settlement, but also her job. Her company, unwilling to tolerate the scandal of an employee sleeping with a client, terminated her contract for misconduct. As I walked out of the courthouse on the final day of the trial, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. This wasn't the ending I had wanted, but it was the one Amelia had chosen by refusing to be honest. If she had spoken to me with sincerity that night in the restaurant, perhaps things could have ended more amicably. We could have salvaged some respect, avoided the public humiliation, and parted ways with dignity. But Amelia's stubbornness, her lies, and her refusal to take accountability had left no room for reconciliation. In the end, the truth had prevailed, and Amelia had paid the price.